current events in the United States if it's loading for you.
I see the picture on the screen. System is down at the moment. My reflex was to look over at the modem to see if it's still the butterfly in Japan 3.
Chaos theory, right?
Chaos theory.
In fact, this past week it was actually colder in Arlington than it was in Omsk.
Aha.
I've been following the weather out there, and during our last cold snap, we were colder.
Moscow is 21 this morning. A balmy 55.
Arlington's 6 Celsius.
Flight. It's kind of up there.
It snowed on my dear daughter in Lubbock. Last weekend, before they came back.
How's she doing? How was her first semester passing?
Well, she has a good roommate and is making good network up there. And they all work together and study together. And her semester has all those fun math and chemistry courses, which are not exactly her favorites, but looking forward to spring.
I'm sure if the rest of you are aware that Professor Smith is a freshman in college this year. She's beginning her higher educational studies. And she goes to school, she attends school in Lubbock, a distance away from Arlington. And
300 miles.
3 miles, and she has left home, and it's have what is popularly known as empty nest syndrome. And they have an empty nest for the first time in a long time.
It's bad at our homes. No teenager running around. So with us today, let's go up rather than down the list for a change. Yulia, good morning. How are you? Yulia with us. Good morning. Good evening. All right. Well, there you might be.
I have some problems with internet.
We can hear you, Yulia, but not see you. But good evening.
Yes.
So I think we've seen and heard you. Good evening.
Yes. Good morning.
Thanks for the weather update too. Raikan, good evening.
Good evening or good morning, America.
Good morning. Maria, good evening. How are you?
Good.
You are good. Everybody's testing out their cameras and microphones. And Dina, good morning. Is she a teacher or a student?
As a teacher.
Teacher, wonderful. And yeah, are you with us? Good morning. Daria. So we will come back to Daria. We want to start this morning. We've put an image up on the screen under the tab Healthcare Gov. Can everybody see that image?
Yes.
This is probably the talked about current event in the United States today. Would that be a true statement, Professors Lero and Marston?
Yes.
Mhm.
Understand this current event. Has anybody read about it or seen something about it on the Russian news or the American news that you may have been listening to? Why don't we start with you? What does this look like? What does this image look like to you?
It looks like I want to get information and I cannot.
That's exactly perfect. Yeah. And what gave you that information? What, when you looked at the screen, language told you that?
Wow, this is down at the moment, I guess.
The system is down at the moment, right? Almost a universal statement.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in little print right under it, what are they trying to do? We are working to what?
Trying to restore the system.
As soon as possible. Yeah. Please try again later. And Essa, can you tell us what the system is? What's its address?
Well, I think this is a governmental site of healthcare.
Have you heard about this news story?
Well, I haven't.
Okay, done it perfectly. Like you've heard the story already. This is the website for what everybody knows in America as healthcare.gov, and this is the Obama administration's website to sign up for affordable health care. It's known as, and Professor Marston talked about this several weeks ago, the Affordable Health Care Act. And as Professor Lero points out, it's pretty much a USA-focused story. It's a little bit of an embarrassment to everybody involved because we have about 6 months. You can see at the very bottom of the screen this little marker that says there are 181 days to enroll. And this site went up on October 1st. Any thousands of people began to go to this site and try to sign up for health care. The crash, the system was down. Very few people were to get their health insurance. It was a very big embarrassment for the governmental ministries and offices that had built this site. And you can see they've got a very careful calendar. By October 1st, you're beginning to up for your new health care. January 1st, your new health care should begin. And when thousands and hundreds of thousands of people went to that site, they could for health care. It's one of the biggest events of the Obama presidency. I almost said pregnancy. This law was passed actually in what, 2009?
Yes.
And will bring insurance to millions and millions of people who don't have insurance. And as of today and yesterday, the system is running much better. They brought in a crack team of programmers, and I heard yesterday that nearly 800,000 people visited that site. And yes, Professor Lero points out a Freudian slip to say pregnancy rather than presidency. Marston or Lero, would you like to add anything to this story?
Personally, that our particular arrangement is such that we enrolling for Obamacare, that our insurance is satisfactory, is delightfully satisfactory. So tune out all of this noise about the system. To me, it's interesting that it's going on, but I am not in this, and I'm interested how visited I am in it.
So for you, and do you, like most people, have insurance through your work?
Through my wife's retirement.
Ah.
And for the last several years, I have been. She is our principal insurance carrier in the household. Getting pretty close to her.
Well, I've been interested in it because it's been such a political issue in Washington this year, Obamacare. But I do have a certain distance on it because I am my medical insurance is already from the government. I'm old enough to do that, and so my medical insurance is Medicare, and it's great. It's the best medical insurance I have had in my entire life.
Medicare. Medicare is my supplementary insurance. I do want to mention, I read the speaker has sought for Obamacare. He found out that it's cheaper for him than whatever insurance he had, and is the principal opponent of this, and has described it as the work of the devil. But thing like self-interest or economic self-interest to change one's mind.
He did it in an attempt to further embarrass the government, and he didn't think he'd be able to sign up. And it went right through. They had trouble getting a hold of him to let him know that everything was working well, because he wasn't answering his phone from the government. It's a very hot political issue. You may remember that the Republican Congress has sort of its mission to be as obstructionist about everything the Obama government does as possible. And their big hitter was to repeal Obamacare. And they voted to repeal that law 40 times. But getting close there. It's a symbolic vote because the law has been in a while, and it won't could pass. They've done that as a way of being obstructionist. So it's a very hot political problem, and everyone is kind of puzzled why the health of had such a poor beginning.
Mm.
Why don't Maria, if she could tell us a little bit about healthcare in Russia, or actually anybody could help us, but about healthcare in Russia, how when you go to the doctor, who pays?
Country medicine is free, but it's not comfortable. If you want to have good health, you must go to the private clinic, and you must pay money for it. And if you want to have mental clinic, it's there is scale and not high in government. And so to go and that's to go private.
To the
So
private.
Yes, I paid money and
So there's two systems, the governmental system and the private system. And if you go to the governmental system, you said it's a long wait, and the quality is very low, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you go to the private system, it's faster.
Yeah, faster than
So if you get a sore throat, right? You say your throat is sore.
I prefer have treatment in at home.
Treat that at home, and how would you treat that?
To have some medicine.
So probably wouldn't go to a doctor for that.
No.
Okay. Let's say maybe you're much sicker. You have to go to the doctor. If you go to the governmental health care, right? That's what it costs to see a doctor. What would the charge be? What would the monetary charge be?
No.
In the governmental health care, you go to a doctor in governmental.
If you go to the governmental, we have medical insurance and it's free with money for it. Sometimes maybe for I know I money in government.
Okay. And how long would you have to wait to get an appointment? How long would you have to wait? Have to wait several days, or how long would it take to see a doctor? On the phone today, an appointment. Could you see a doctor today at the governmental health care?
Your place will be free. I can go to my doctor and he can help me.
But if you go to a private clinic,
no, it's quickly. You paid money and you go to the.
How much money would you pay to go to the doctor in the private clinic? About roughly. Yeah.
I know it's a very different cost.
Some money.
What?
But it have a cost. It would have you'd have to pay some money to go to the private clinic. It's not free, right?
Yes, not free.
Let's see. Who have I not picked on yet? Do you have a similar situation? What else could you say about healthcare in Russia?
Well, to say I'm not the citizen of the Russian Federation, that's why I try not to get close acquaintance with Russian medical system. But for the rest, last summer, I need to make medical certificate, which was me to work as a teacher. And I went to a government hospital. It was rather quickly, but it was a bit expensive, I think. It was about this certificate costed me about $100.
Okay. Pay that even a governmental clinic because we're not a citizen of the Russian Federation, right?
I know even Russian citizenship citizens should pay for such.
Yeah, we would say the situation is all over the map, right? You pay some services are free. You might go to a private clinic and get better care, high quality care, more quickly, but you end up paying for that service. As you were hearing Professors Lero, Marston, and myself talk, we don't really have a similar system. We have a primarily private system in the United States. So many cities and many governments do oftentimes offer low-cost medical care. We tend to receive insurance through where we work or where a family member works. Oh, Professor Marston also mentioned Medicare, which is a governmental insurance plan, and so it's a somewhat more mixed system. Private doctors and clinics and hospitals are very common, and so we tend to be very aware of, and there's Professor Lero's insurance card right there, his
Medicare card.
So that when he goes, that's perfect. When he goes to the doctor or the hospital, he has that card with him, gives him certain benefits, and you saw the word benefits there on his card. There'll be a list of things Professor Lero can get. Right? He can see the doctor, he can get some basic medicine, they might take some blood and do a base blood test. There will be some certain benefits that he can get either low cost or free. And then each of our plans, each of us has an insurance plan that lets you, can't talk, that lets you go to certain doctors and get certain services that are allowed under your particular insurance plan. To go back to healthcare.gov, one of the scandals, I think I could say, of the American medical system is that tens of millions of people do not have insurance in the United States. And so with the this law, with the passage of this Obama law in 2009, millions of Americans will for the first time have quality, low-cost health insurance. And so everybody is watching this particular event, as Professor Marston said, because it is a very political event, in addition to being about medical care. Can one more student, maybe Raihan, to tell us a little bit more about the Russian system? Go ahead.
As for me, I have never visited doctors in private hospital, It's very expensive for me. But last week I got a ticket for visiting specialized doctor at governmental hospital. When I came to the door, I saw a sheet of paper with the words, "Sorry, the machine is down." The note. I was waiting this visit to the doctor for 3 days. A doctor suggested me come in a week. It will be repaired. It's usual situations in our governmental hospitals, particularly in Omsk.
Common situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that governmental care or that governmental doctor, and you had to wait. You had to come back in a week in order to hopefully get that service. Well, very want to follow this, as Professor Marston said in the chat, is what we might call primarily a domestic news story. It would be focused on quite a bit internal to the United States and not be a very, very big story internationally. But I think as the system was not functioning, it became something of what we might call in medical terms black eye. It was embarrassing to us that this major computer system in the United States meant to do this very good thing, bring healthcare to many millions of people, was not functioning. Although now I think it is.
I'd like to make one other observation, and that is, which line that you're pointing to, the system is down at the moment. Notice that the word system is capitalized. Is capitalized. When any student just briefly comment on the general rules of capitalization, as in English.
Names, proper names. Sorry, proper nouns. I'm sorry, pronouns.
Proper nouns, proper adjectives. Proper nouns, proper adjectives. Yeah. Place names. Place names.
Pronoun I.
Pronoun I. What else? Okay. All right. Okay. That's fine. I think you've got it, Svetlana. We also many people will capitalize the word God. God will capitalize that as a sign of respect. And pronouns that refer to God are capitalized. But if for example, if I'm in an editor writing and I type the word Google or I type the word internet, the text editor will correct those and capitalize them for me. And you have system being capitalized, giving some sort of elevated status to the system, despite the fact that the system is not working. System.
Well, this is, I think, a story that will be unfolding over the rest of the month, and we'll be weighing in. And there's another medical reference. Boy, I'm all with the medical references this morning. Switch gears and talk about the theme we wanted to introduce today, which was culture. Describe it. What culture is. And Svetlana, I heard your voice just a second ago. Could you give me your definition of culture? What's culture?
Actually, as far as I know, there are more than 500 definitions of what culture is.
Well, just one or two.
Just one or two.
Pick yours. So how would you describe it?
How to describe it? Well, I would agree with definition given in the reading material that you provide. That includes kinds of thinking, certain practices that people, certain nationality group, ethnic group have or practice. The living, the way of doing things, the way of saying, percepting, well, the outside world, that is included in what culture means. Well, me, at least.
Definition, yeah. Patterns of thinking, a way of living, a worldview. Who else could help me? Who have we not heard from yet? Yulia, have I picked on you yet? Yulia, how would you describe culture?
Well, I agree with Svetlana, but also I'd like to add that it's also current kind of art, for example, music, for example, and so on.
Yeah, we call those culture with a big C. Art, music, literature, you name it. Those, and another phrases that you might hear. One would be high culture, or somebody is a very cultured person. That would go very much to your definition of what culture is. And small c culture, I thought Svetlana's definition was just right on the money. It was perfect. The way I do it is, my definition, if you asked me, would be attitudes, beliefs, and senses. And if you look at my three, they match Svetlana's very nicely, right? Attitudes. How do people think? And typically we might think an ethnic group or a country group sharing similar attitudes, beliefs or ways of being, as Svetlana called it, in life, experiences or worldviews. All of us grew up in a culture that we're swimming in. And one of the reasons that culture is very hard to describe is it's the color of paint on the walls. It's the way you drive your car. It's the food you eat. It's what you listen to on the radio. All of these are colored by cultural upbringing. And all as language teachers know this is very important, but it's very hard to even define. And so we want to spend some time today talking about vocabulary and ways of describing culture. So you see on your screen a short PowerPoint deck. Can everybody see that? Describing culture. I move to slide 2. And we wanted to give you at least 2 names of theorists, of cultural theorists, and very influential in helping us how we think about culture. The first one is a gentleman named Fons Trompenas, who did a large study back in the 1990s where he went out and surveyed managers at corporations around the world. And in particular, Trompenaars was working the company Shell, Royal Dutch Shell, national company. So he could talk to managers in the Moscow office and talk to managers in the Berlin office and talk to managers and interview them in the Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil. And he began to come up with what he called some continua for culture. And in particular, he put out a very interesting book called Riding the Waves of Culture. And if you go to Google Books, you can actually read most of this book online. The way Trompenaars did his research was to ask interesting questions to those managers in Moscow or Berlin or Rio de Janeiro. So, for example, one of the questions he might have asked those managers, the one that you see on slide 3. Are you the captain of your own fate? For a minute. Are you the person who decides your fate? What will become in life? Will you be successful? Will you not be successful? Or are there other powers in the universe that will determine fate? Often of your own fate. Katya, to you. How would you answer that question? Are you the captain of your own fate?
So I am the captain of my own fate, but some passengers already. I have
very nice.
my husband and my son, and my passengers.
I love it.
I will listen to them too.
Captain, but you listen to your passengers.
Yeah.
Maya, what would you say? Are you the captain of your own fate?
I think every people is captain of their own fate. But, with other people, and you must listen cohabit.
You know, if you were saying, yes, I am as individual, determining my own fate, but there are some others around me, some other people. Yes, so are you the captain of your own fate?
I think I am sometimes, but I like to drift sometimes.
That's what I wanted, somebody who was a little fatalistic.
Oh.
So yes, for the most part, or sometimes yes, sometimes no, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. Yeah. And we talk about, you guys sound like a very individualistic group, right? The individual is an important, element. Sometimes we hear about, Russian fatalism, right? That there in literature in particular, there's this, wonderful fatalistic thread in some Russian literature. Solana, are you the captain of your own fate?
Was more fatalistic. I think to some extent, of course, if you don't do anything, God certainly won't help you. Well, or hardly. So of course, some things, but I sometimes tend to think that very little. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't try hard. No, you should consider that define our path apart from our own will, desire to do something.
Perfect for a view just like that. We have a whole range of views, even just in the 4 of you that I called on. And Trompenaars did was, if you look at slide before that slide said, he surveyed, as I said, managers in many, many different countries, asking them questions like this. And he asked, are you the captain of your own fate? He, as a researcher, began to find patterns across country groups or ethnic groups. So, for example, if you look down at this chart, you'll see at the very bottom, or near the very bottom, the United States. 82% of the people who he spoke with said, yes, I am the captain of my own fate. It's a very high percentage. Everybody see the United States there at the bottom, 82%. We're not a very fatalistic country, the United States. But look where Russia is. Very close to the top of the list, at only 49% of his respondents said that they're the captain of their own fate. And so by asking what seems like a very simple question, he began to build up pictures of how national groups viewed themselves and the world around them. This back to Svetlana's patterns of thinking, ways of living, worldview, my similar definition, attitudes and beliefs and experiences. And see patterns. That's to say that all Americans think X, or all Americans believe Y. We don't want to tread into stereotypes. But we clearly do see these cultural patterns that are different, that are oftentimes not verbalized. And so we think ourselves as language teachers, but really in a larger sense, we're teachers of language and culture. And one of the most fascinating, most difficult things to teach. A very interesting thing that Trompenaars did was to ask his managers in various different countries how they think about time. Time is wonderfully cultural. So what I'm going to do is put a whiteboard up here. We're going to ask some folks to do some drawing for us. A task Trompenaars gave his teachers was think about the past and the present and the future, and draw 3 circles in any way you want that tell how you think about the past and the present and future. So, for example, I am going to here. Can everybody see the plain whiteboard? Going to see if I can get this in a color that people can see. So for me, the present is fairly important. I'm going to draw a pretty big circle. Oh, the past is not so important to me, and it's a little distant, so I'm going to draw out over here. The future is sort of important, and it sort of connects to my present. It's thing like that. So what some folks think about just for a moment here. Everybody draw on the whiteboard. So draw 3 circles that talk about present and future. How important are they? How distant are they? Do you think about them very much? There's some folks drawing. Go ahead and draw some circles for us. And use your tools you want. well. Very interesting. All right, I start with Daria. Do you want to tell us about your circles? Why did you draw them that way?
Hello, everybody. I'm so sorry.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Good morning,
Thank you for
Daria.
understanding. Good morning.
Good evening. Good morning.
Actually, I heard everything, and I'm not sure about the present and the future. They are both really important and precious for me. I don't know. I'm not sure what to choose. Because, I'm like an American. I live in the present day. Also, I think much about the future.
Very your comment. You're very much like an American. So I'm looking at your circles right here, and you've very big importance on the present, importance on the future, and you said the past is a little less important to you and a little more distant. And very nice. And as you'll see in a second, you're exactly right. That's a very American-like pattern. Yulia, tell us about your circles.
Made three circles. In the center is my present. Of course, it is very important for me. And on the left is the future and the past. I try to make them of equal size, but they're a bit different. The past is important, but it has already gone. Action may change. So that's why I think of the future very a lot.
Very nice. Maria, tell us about yours.
My in the future, I think for me it is more important. And I prefer to work in my present more harder that will have more advantage in the future, but and understand that my future and my present is connected with my past, and sometimes it will be better to look back at the past, that we don't make some mistakes.
So the past can teach us, right?
Yes, and for me, future is future.
Okay. You guys are a very Western group. Let's do Katya. Katya, tell us about yours.
So I try to make my souls equal.
Okay.
Past and future and present are equal to me. I think I try to show that they are versed between each other together.
Yeah, so they're close together for you. Excellent. Ron, do you want to tell us about yours?
Well, my people circles look like Salvador Dali's picture.
It's modern art. We will have modern art.
As for my first circle, this is my past life. My past life was usual, and for the biggest circle. This is my present life, and I think it's a very important period of my life. And then my future, my future is cloud.
Cloudy, a little unclear.
Yes.
But very present. So you've been very creative. Svetlana, tell us about yours.
The shape doesn't mean that there's well, the future, present are more or less important. I emphasize that with most people here that presents are interconnected. But why I showed the past circle? Because you most what about your past? You can draw a lot from the past to be your future, and you know very little about your future. That's why it looks like a speck of light, probably. Yeah. What I wanted to show is that also an invaluable experience as you move through life. You build up your personality, and it grows, it expands. You shouldn't forget about the past that formed you, actually. Again, about the past mistakes, everything that formed your personality. You don't forget it, you will sure be not embarrassed mistake and probably reflect about the past in order to make sure you're going the right way. It's difficult to formulate.
No, actually, this is perfect, because you'll see in a minute. I think the past is viewed very differently, and more importantly, many people in Russia than might be true here in the United States. So you're a perfect example. I like it. Hold that thought. I want to do one more. Alyesa, I think we have to scroll down to see your circles. Everybody wants to scroll down. Alyesa, can you tell us about your circles very briefly?
I agree with Satya, and it's really important, but it is a bit more important, of course, and everything is connected. Well, the circles are equal size.
And you filled in the present and made it a darker color.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, let's go ahead and go back to the slideshow, and if you look at slide 6, you can see, hopefully everybody can see slide 6, Trump and ours began to see patterns. So if you look at Russia, a typical pattern, so this goes to Sveta's point, the past had very strong importance, or did for many of his Russia measures that he surveyed. The present important, but less important than the past. The future was even less important still. A compilation, a bringing together of hundreds and hundreds of these diagrams. And if you look at the U.S., exactly the opposite. The United States tends to be a somewhat more future-looking country. And I forgot who told me, was that Katya Maria? Someone said that they were American. We tend to be a very future-oriented society. Other societies on the planet have very different profiles. If you look at China, for example, their diagram tends to be not unlike Yesa's, for example, or I think his. And then some other, societies are more present-based. Germany, for example. And he began to see these patterns In particular, I was very pleased that Svetlana talked about the importance of the past. Russia tends to put a very strong importance on the past in general, and it's very different in that regard from the United States. One of the observations when United States students go to Russia, when U.S. students go to Russia, and they go to historical cities and churches and monuments and museums, it takes the United States students a little bit of time to get accustomed to this, because they'll see things like Russia is just one big history museum, because the history in Russia is so very important. So, have anything to add on the importance of past? Would you agree with this diagram about Russians in general?
It's difficult for me to generalize. I'm a bit surprised that I turned out to be a typical Russian. Well, that's probably good news. Well, I am where I'm supposed to be.
Yes, and you're fatalistic too. I like it. You're the perfect example of a Russian. Has many different features. And when you go to look at Trompenars, look at slide 7, maybe how far you think in the past or how far you think in the future. Some societies have a very long-term view, have a very short-term view. There's all sorts of wonderful research out there. And Trompenars also tell stories. This is one you can